This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Julie Hyman in for Pim Fox today. Former IMF chief Dominique Strauss-Kahn returning to a New York courthouse this morning to plead not guilty to charges of sexually assaulting a hotel maid. Now, lawyers for Strauss-Kahn today filed requests for documents and recordings connected to the case, as well as a witness list. For more, we're joined by one of the most prominent trial lawyers in the country. Alan Dershowitz has represented Mike Tyson, O.J. Simpson, and Patty Hearst, among others. He joins us now from Harvard University, where he teaches criminal and human rights law. Thank you very much for joining us. We should mention he's also the author of the novel Trials of Zion. Mr. Dershowitz, thanks so much for joining us on the program today. You know, I'm curious, last time we spoke with you, you talked about sort of your playbook and what you might do in a defense case like this. I'm curious, at this juncture, what is sort of the attorney's main job? Is it keeping the story out of the press? Is it just working on strategy? What do you think?
No, I think they have to make believe that they have a strong case, and they have to be bold in front of the media and behind the scenes try to work out a deal, if possible, with the complainant, although that's delicate because you can't obstruct justice or do anything to tamper with witnesses, and then ultimately try to work out a deal with the prosecution. This is going to be a very hard case to try. The people of New York tend to side with the underdog. You saw the protests outside the courtroom with maids and people dressed in maids' costumes. I don't think a good defense lawyer wants to see this case go to trial.
And so, I mean, what kind of bargaining do you do exactly? So you do a situation where you agree to a set sentence in exchange for not going to trial?
No, you don't bargain with the prosecution. The prosecution at this point has all the cards. I think what's going on behind the scenes are their efforts are being made probably to work with the family, friends, lawyer of the complainant. And if a deal can be made and the case settled with her, then maybe she becomes a reluctant witness, and then it becomes much easier, if the prosecution lost its main witness, to make a deal with the prosecution. The other reason why I think the lawyer for the maid will eventually make a deal is because the money in this case really is with the wife. And if they win a big judgment, civil judgment, against the defendant after he's been convicted, how are they going to collect it? They're going to spend the next 10 years chasing the money. Whereas if they can make a deal now, the deal would include the payments being made by the wife, and there'd be no problem of chasing the money. And if they're interested in the money, if the lawyer and the alleged victim are interested in the money, making a deal before trial is a much better situation for them than waiting until after there's been a trial.
Well, these types of negotiations and this type of attempt at persuasion, I mean, obviously we're looking at a trial that would be months off. How quickly can something like this come to fruition?
Well, they usually don't happen that quickly. Normally they happen more or less on the eve of trial when both parties look at the risk factors. After all, if he's acquitted, there's no money in the case. And if he's convicted, then chasing the money will be difficult. And so I think the lawyer for the complainant will soon come to his senses, not right away, because he probably wants a little bit more publicity and attention, a few more court hearings, but eventually will come to his senses and realize that a pre-trial settlement of a potential civil suit without any express agreement about her not testifying might serve the interests of both parties better than a trial, which is always a roulette wheel element to it.
And in terms of the court of public opinion, as you mentioned, I mean, what happens in the event of a settlement?
Well, in the events of a settlement, both sides spin it the way they choose to spin it. You know, the defendant says, look, he had to get back to France. He was obliged to continue his responsibility to the French people. And she spins it by saying, look, I'm a poor person, and this was an opportunity to put my children and grandchildren through college. It's easy to spin it once the money has been passed. The hardest thing is to make a deal that is not an obstruction of justice, that the prosecution can't say, oh, my God, you paid off the witness. That's against the law. That's the delicate dance that has to be done by the parties in this case.
Mr. Dershowitz, we just have about a minute left, and I have to ask you about the Anthony Weiner situation today. I'm sure you saw or heard about it, at the very least, the press conference he just gave. He said he did not legally do anything wrong, but do you think he needs a lawyer at this point?
Not only does he need a lawyer, he needs a particular kind of lawyer. He needs somebody like Doug Schoen or Mark Fabiani, who are experts at not only giving legal advice, but giving media advice that relates to legal advice. He needs a very, very sophisticated media, political, legal advisor, not just any lawyer.
And what exactly, I mean, if you were in that role, what exactly would you be telling him?
Well, I'd have to know what the truth is. Right now, everybody's confused. Everybody is taking the kind of worst-case scenario. He's been such a good congressman, such a good public servant, that I wish he had handled the media aspect of this in a more direct and forthright way. That's what everybody is looking for. They just want to know the truth, and they want to put it behind them.
All right, here's hoping. Thank you so much. Alan Dershowitz, a famed attorney, joining us to talk about the Dominique Strauss-Kahn case, and a little bonus, some commentary on Anthony Weiner as well.